Start with part 2. More unique 800 words. Liari was alone in the communication tower. Her fingers trembled as she played back the human transmission again and again. The signal was old, possibly distorted, but the words were clear enough to chill. Her blood. Yes, human males eat their females. The translator confirmed it. The message came from a human science vessel, broadcasted years ago. Her people, the Yantari, had always warned against humans. They were strange, emotional, and too physical, but eating their mates? That was horrifying. Liari was young, just a translator apprentice. She wasn't even supposed to be on this mission. But after a solar flare knocked out the main language system, she was the only one who could still work with partial human codes. Now, she wished she hadn't. She sat back in the cold metal chair, her purple skin pale with fear. She looked outside the window and her heart dropped. The human was here. Daniel, the only human on the shared research station, was walking across the hallway carrying something. A box of food supplies, probably. Was he bringing it to her? Or was it her he planned to eat? Her breathing grew fast. She locked the door and backed away. She had seen Daniel before, tall, broad shoulders, always smiling. She thought he was kind. He once helped a Drokian child when it fell, and once he shared heat packs with her during a power cut. But now, everything felt different. Was it all a trick? Was he waiting for the right moment? The knock on the door made her jump. Liari? You okay in there? Daniel's voice called out. I brought some food, in case you're hungry. Her stomach growled. In betrayal, she was hungry, but not enough to risk being devoured. I'm fine. She shouted, voice shaking. No, thank you. Are you sure? You haven't eaten all day, Daniel replied, still calm. I can leave it by the door. No. She said too quickly. There was silence, then footsteps walking away. Liari slowly sank to the floor, her heart racing. She didn't know what to believe anymore. Was the translation wrong? Could it be a misunderstanding? She opened the console again and played more of the audio log. It was part of a human interview, 2 male voices laughing and talking. Yeah man, I love my girl. I'd eat her every day if I could. Huh, that's the human way, bro. Liari covered her mouth, horrified. There it was again, the same word, eat. But they sounded happy, joking even. She typed the sentence into the universal translator again. The computer gave her the same meaning. To consume their mate for pleasure or bonding. Her mind spun. What kind of bonding involved eating each other? Was it a ritual? A symbol of ownership? Were humans really that savage? She remembered a story her grandmother told her, that long ago, Yantari females were told never to travel alone near human males. They'll eat you alive, the old story said. Liari always thought it was an expression. Now she wasn't so sure. She needed answers. But how could she ask Daniel without putting herself in danger? She could pretend to be curious about human culture, but what if he took it as an invitation? Still, her curiosity burned brighter than her fear. If the humans were so dangerous, why did she feel drawn to him? Why did his eyes seem gentle, his voice kind? Was he hiding his nature? Or was she just misunderstanding everything? The next day, Liari stayed close to the security cameras. She watched Daniel from a distance. He helped carry supplies, fixed a broken terminal, and even laughed with a group of engineers. Nothing about him screamed, predator, no claws, no bloodlust, just a man trying to be helpful. But the sentence still echoed in her mind. I love my girl. I'd eat her every day. She shivered. The fear hadn't left, but something else was growing inside her too. A question she couldn't ignore. What if the translation was right, but the meaning was wrong? She looked up at the stars beyond the glass wall. Maybe it was time to speak to the human. But she would not go unprepared. Liari opened the alien database on human rituals. She searched keywords. Eat, mate, love, bonding. What she found next confused her even more. Images, descriptions, behaviors, nothing made sense. Some of it sounded scary, some of it sounded strange but not violent, and some of it made her cheeks burn bright violet. She shut the screen quickly. What kind of species kissed with their mouths and called it tasting love? What kind of male devoured a mate with words and hands? Her head spun. She wasn't ready for this world, but something told her she was already in it, and the only way forward was to ask the human himself. Tomorrow, she would find Daniel and ask with trembling voice, "Do you really eat your females?" Liari didn't sleep that night. Her mind was full of strange images, humans laughing, kissing, touching, and that terrifying word again and again. Eat. How could one word mean so many things? And why did the idea of asking Daniel make her heart beat faster than fear ever did? She spent the morning watching him from the observation deck. Daniel sat on a crate, eating some kind of sandwich with one hand while typing with the other. He looked normal, calm, kind even, but that made it worse. How could something so dangerous look so ordinary? Then something unexpected happened. Daniel looked up, straight into the camera, and smiled. He waved at her like he knew she was watching. Liari gasped and jumped back from the screen. Moments later, her door chimed. She froze, staring at it like it was a predator's mouth. Then the human's voice came through softly. "Hey Liari, I know you've been avoiding me," he said. "Just wanted to say, I'm not mad or anything, but I'm worried about you." She stood there, silent. Daniel continued, "I made extra tonight, real food. Not those dry rations. Maybe we could eat together?" Eat together? Was this it? The moment he would strike? She slowly walked toward the door, fingers hovering over the panel. Every instinct screamed no, but something in her heart whispered yes. She opened the door halfway, just enough to see him. He wasn't holding a knife or anything sharp, just a covered tray and a warm smile. "See? Safe," he joked, raising the tray slightly. "It's just dinner." "Dinner," she repeated nervously. "Yes," he said, "we eat dinner around. This time, I know what that means," she replied, her voice small, but he couldn't understand the weight behind her words. She stepped aside slowly, letting him in. Daniel looked around her room, a bit surprised. It was dark, with multiple translation screens flashing human phrases. Some paused on sentences like, "Eat her heart out," "I could eat you alive," "You're delicious." His eyes widened for a second, but he didn't comment. He placed the tray on the table and uncovered it. Steam rose from 2 warm bowls of stew, thick and full of vegetables. Beside them, soft bread and a small piece of cake. "No meat," he said quickly. "In case you're vegetarian." Liari blinked. He wasn't serving meat? That didn't match anything she expected, but she stayed alert, watching every move. She sat across from him, but didn't touch the food. Daniel took the first bite himself, chewing slowly. "I know this might be weird," he said, "but food brings people together, right?" She nodded slowly, unsure how to respond. They ate in silence for a while. Well, Daniel did. Liari mostly watched him eat with confusion and wonder. He used utensils with strange grace. No signs of violence. He smiled after every bite closed. His eyes after the cake. He looked happy. "You're not eating," he finally said. "Don't like it?" "I'm watching," she admitted. "Watching for what?" "Signs," she whispered. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Of what?" She hesitated, then whispered, "That you're dangerous." He paused, his spoon halfway to his mouth, then gently set it down. "What did you hear, Liari?" he asked seriously. She looked at the translator screen behind him and said, "I heard human males eat their females." Daniel blinked, then laughed, not a cruel laugh, but surprised, even touched. "Ah," he said, leaning back. "So that's why you've been avoiding me. I thought you might cook me." She shouted, embarrassed. Daniel chuckled. "Well, I did cook dinner, but not you, of course. But it said you eat females." "Every day," he nodded slowly, thinking. "Yeah. See, that's a misunderstanding. Then explain it." She asked, Her hands gripping the chair tightly, Daniel rubbed his neck awkwardly. Okay, so when we say stuff like eat her up or devour with love, we don't mean actual eating. Then what do you mean? He hesitated, clearly unsure how to say it. Look, in human slang, eat can mean being very affectionate, sometimes physically. Liari tilted her head, still confused. Like kissing? Yeah, he said, relieved. Kissing, cuddling, and other things. That usually happen when you really care about someone. Liari's eyes widened. So when you said you'd eat someone every day, it was love? Exactly, he said, smiling softly. It means adoration, closeness, not violence. Liari stared at him for a long moment, then suddenly burst out laughing. It surprised both of them. Daniel blinked. What's funny? She covered her mouth, laughing even harder. I've been hiding, scanning dictionaries, thinking you were going to bite my head off. Well, Daniel joked, not unless invited. She looked up sharply, eyes wide. He raised his hands quickly. That was a joke. Liari finally took a bite of the bread. It was warm, soft, and comforting. She smiled shyly. So, humans eat with love? Yep, he replied. Our strangest words come from the heart. Liari nodded slowly. Maybe humans weren't monsters after all. Maybe. Their meanings were just hidden in confusing language. But one thing was now very clear to her. She wanted to learn more about them, especially this human male who invited her to dinner. Not to eat her, but to understand her, and maybe to be understood. Liari had never felt this confused in her life. After that dinner, her fear of Daniel faded a little, but not completely. Yes, he said that humans don't eat their mates in a violent way. Yes, he even laughed and explained everything. But her heart still didn't fully believe it. What if he was lying in a polite way? What if that affection he spoke of was just the first step before the real devouring? So she made a decision. She would not ask more questions. She would watch him herself, closely, secretly, like a shadow. The perfect opportunity came that very evening. Daniel mentioned during lunch that he'd be joining 2 other humans for a private meal, a special dinner with 1 female and 1 male, both visiting from the Earth Embassy ship. Liari's ears perked up at the word private. Was this one of those strange human rituals? Maybe this was the real mating, or worse, the eating ritual. That night, she activated the stealth cams in the corridor. Then she carefully crawled through the vent system above the mess hall. Her purple skin blended well in the dim lights. She found a small gap between the vent slats and looked down. There they were. 3 humans sitting around a table. Daniel, a tall blonde male with loud laughter, and a female with short dark hair and bright red lips. There were candles, soft music playing from a small speaker, and food, lots of it. Pasta, green vegetables, something brown and steaming, and a strange white bottle labeled wine. Liari narrowed her eyes. This did look like a ritual, and yet no one looked scared. They were laughing, joking, sipping from glasses, feeding each other bites of food. At one point, the female leaned forward and said to Daniel, "You always were the kind of guy who'd eat a woman whole." Liari's jaw dropped. There it was again, the code. Daniel just grinned and replied, "Only if she says please first." The other 2 laughed loudly. Liari nearly fainted. She quickly wrote it down in her notebook. Human mating, step 1. Female offers herself. Step 2. Male eats her. Step 3. Everyone laughs. Nothing made sense. Then something even stranger happened. The human male leaned toward the female and said, "Hey, remember that time you said I was delicious?" The female blushed and hit his arm playfully. "You are delicious, but don't get cocky." Liari's eyes went wide. So humans describe each other as food now? Her translator confirmed. Delicious equals tastes good, desirable. She scribbled that down too. Desirable equals edible? Daniel looked up suddenly, and Liari froze. Had he seen her in the vent? But no, he just raised his glass and said, 2. Good friends, good food. And the kind of love that devours. The word echoed in her ears. Devours, she had heard that one before. Back in the broadcast. Back in the warning message. Human males love to devour their mates. Was this what it meant? Candles, music, soft words, laughter. And then one day, the devouring? Liari felt her face heating up. Was she scared? Or embarrassed? Everything she watched seemed loving, close. Not dangerous, but still. Very intimate, very weird, just. Then, Daniel did something that shocked her more than any word. He reached across the table and brushed the female's hair behind her ear, and she smiled and leaned into his hand like it was natural. Touch, so casual, so soft, no fear, no armor. No claws. Was this the ritual of affection? Liari crawled backward slowly, her mind spinning with new questions. She returned to her room and played the new recordings 3 times. The words, the gestures, the laughter, it was all there. But still, no real eating, not even biting. She didn't know what to believe anymore. One part of her wanted to lock her door forever and never speak to Daniel again. Another part wanted to ask him everything, even the awkward things, especially the awkward things. She opened her translator again and typed in the phrases. Eat her whole. You're delicious. Love that devours. This time, the translator offered new interpretations. To admire someone deeply. To enjoy someone's company and presence intensely. To love so much that you want to be closer than close. Liari stared at the screen for a long time. It wasn't about violence. It was about closeness, touch, intimacy. But for her kind, such closeness was rare. Yantari showed affection with distance, with gifts, not with physical closeness. The human way was overwhelming, strange, confusing, but maybe also beautiful. She looked at her reflection in the glass panel. What if I asked him? She whispered, what if I asked Daniel what it really means? To eat someone with love? Liari couldn't focus for the next 2 cycles. Every time she saw Daniel in the hallway, her face heated up. She remembered every strange word she'd heard him say, every smile he gave, every joke she didn't understand, and worst of all, the sentence still echoed in her mind. I'd eat her whole, only if she said please first. What did it mean? Was he teasing? Or was that truly what humans called love? She decided she couldn't live in confusion anymore. The only way to understand was to ask him directly. But how do you ask a male if he wants to devour his mate? Even thinking it made her cheeks burn violet. Still, she gathered all her courage and waited for the right moment. She found him in the plant chamber, where humans grew fresh herbs and vegetables for cooking. Daniel was wearing a simple gray shirt, rolled at the sleeves, his hands covered in dirt. He looked peaceful, focused, alive. Liari stepped in slowly, holding a data pad like it would protect her. Daniel, she said softly. He looked up and his face lit up. Liari, you okay? Haven't seen you much since dinner. She took a deep breath and nodded. I've been thinking, he tilted his head. About what? She clutched the pad tighter. About humans. And what you do with your mates. Daniel blinked. There was a long pause. Then he chuckled nervously. That's a pretty big topic. I need to know, she said seriously. You said humans don't eat their partners, but everything I hear, all the words, say the opposite. She tapped the pad and showed him the phrases. Devour with love. Eat her whole. You look good enough to eat. Daniel stared at the screen and then at her. His eyes widened. Oh. Wow, okay. I see what's going on now. Liari's face was bright purple now, her antennae twitching. I've been studying your language, she said, but nothing makes sense. Do humans use eating as some kind of code for something else? Daniel wiped his hands on a towel, clearly trying to think. He sat on a crate and patted the one beside him. She sat, cautiously, eyes wide and alert. Okay, he began slowly. You're not wrong, Liari. Humans use words in colorful ways. Sometimes eat doesn't mean food. It means desire, affection, attraction. She swallowed. So it is about mating? He nodded. In some cases, yes, but it's not violent, not harmful. It's more like a way to say someone is irresistible, like you want to be close, emotionally and physically. Liari stared at him like he'd spoken another language entirely. You mean, humans don't just say they love someone, they say they want to consume them? He laughed softly. Yeah, sounds weird when you put it like that, huh? Very weird, she agreed, and terrifying. Daniel leaned forward a bit, voice gentler. But think about it, Liari. Your people give gifts to show love, right? Yes, she said. Tokens, feathers, shared dreams. Exactly, he smiled. We give time, touch, words, and food. She asked, blinking. We cook for people we care about, invite them to dinner. Sometimes even say things like, "You're the sweetest thing I've ever tasted." Not because we're actually eating them, but because love is overwhelming sometimes. Liari slowly nodded. It made a strange kind of sense now. For humans, eating was a symbol of closeness, not cruelty. Still, one thing bothered her. And when you said, "Only if she says please," what does that mean? Daniel choked a little on his own breath. He rubbed his face, clearly flustered. That was a joke, he said. A human joke, it means. I'd only be intimate with someone if they want it with full permission. Intimate, she repeated slowly. Yes, he said. Like kissing, hugging, or more. Her eyes widened. And that's what humans mean when they say devour their mate? He gave a sheepish nod. Pretty much, she sat back, absorbing everything. So, it's not about hurting. No, he said. It's about loving. There was a long silence. Then Liari said, I'm glad I asked, Daniel smiled. I'm glad you trusted me enough to ask. She looked down at her hands. I was scared. I know, he said softly. But you didn't let fear control you. That's brave. She glanced at him shyly. I have one more question. Sure. Have you ever devoured someone you cared about? He blinked, clearly caught off guard. Then he laughed, warm and genuine. Only with kisses. Liari, she smiled, her fear replaced by something. Curious, good, she whispered, because I think I might let you one day. Daniel didn't reply right away, but the way he looked at her said enough, and for the first time, Liari understood what humans meant when they said, love makes you hungry. Liari had finally begun to feel safe. Daniel didn't want to hurt her. He didn't want to eat her. He just wanted to understand her, and maybe be close to her. But peace never lasted long on a multi-species station, especially not when ancient. Fears were still strong, and one single message could destroy everything. That message came from her personal data log, a private journal entry recorded late one night. Liari had spoken her thoughts into it, whispering her feelings about Daniel. I was wrong, she had said. Humans do not eat their mates, not in the way we feared. They touch, they kiss, they speak in sweet codes, and when Daniel smiles at me, I don't feel afraid. I feel warm, like I belong. Maybe I want him to devour me with love. That file was supposed to remain private, but a glitch in the system caused a backup to transmit straight to the Yentari homeworld, to the Council of Elders, to the very people who still believed in the ancient warnings about humans. The response was fast and severe. 3 Elder ships arrived at the edge of the system within a solar day. Their message was simple. You are in danger. Liari, the human male has corrupted you. Prepare for extraction. Liari sat frozen as the message played in her room. She couldn't believe it. They thought she was brainwashed, devoured by his charm. Worse, they were coming to rescue her. Daniel knocked on her door that evening, holding a small plant wrapped in blue ribbon, a gift humans gave flowers to those they admired. Liari opened the door, her face pale, her voice shaking. They're coming, she whispered. Who? He asked, confused. My people, she said. The elders. They read my private log. Daniel's face fell. What did they think? They think you're a predator, she said, looking down. They think you're trying to consume me, he sighed, sitting down on the edge of her bed. I figured something like this might happen. You did? I mean, I saw your people avoiding me for weeks. Even the station guards started watching me again. I tried to stop it, Liari said quickly. I deleted the entry. It's not your fault, Daniel said softly. You trusted me. That's all I care about. She sat beside him, heart racing. They're going to take me away. Daniel, they won't listen to reason. They still believe the old stories about how human males eat their lovers to gain their strength. Daniel chuckled sadly. Wish I had that kind of power. I've eaten pizza for 20 years and still can't lift a cargo crate without groaning. Liari didn't laugh. I'm scared, she admitted. They might attack you if I refuse to go. I won't fight back, Daniel said. But I won't let them take you without letting you speak first. That night, the station trembled as the elder ships docked. Heavy boots echoed through the halls as Yantari soldiers entered the corridor. Their leader, Elder Vixel, stood tall and cold-eyed in silver armor. Where is the girl? He demanded. Liari stepped forward before Daniel could speak. I'm here, she said firmly, but I'm not leaving with you. Child, Vixel said. You've been influenced by the humans' mating pheromones. Liari blinked. What? Humans don't even have mating pheromones. It's worse than I feared, the elder whispered, turning to the guards. Prepare to secure her. No! Liari shouted, stepping in front of Daniel. You don't understand. He didn't harm me. He gave me food, safety, truth. He explained the words we misunderstood. He never touched me without permission. He never threatened me. He only listened. Vixel narrowed his eyes. And yet you say in your log you want to be devoured. Liari flushed but stood tall, with love, elder, and you don't even know what that means. The guards hesitated, unsure whether to move forward. Liari took another brave step. Look at him, elder, she said. Does he look like a monster? Daniel stood calmly, his hands open, no weapon. Just a human male standing beside someone who believed in him. You always taught us to fear what we didn't understand, Liari continued. But how will we ever grow if we stay afraid forever? For the first time, the elder said nothing. His eyes moved between the two of them, Liari, trembling but strong. Daniel, calm but protective. After a long silence, Vixal said, Then prove he is not a danger. We will observe your bond one week. If the council still feels concern, we will take you home. Liari nodded. That's all I ask. As the elders left the room, Daniel let out a long breath. Are all alien families this dramatic? He asked. Liari smiled weakly. You should see what happens when someone marries outside their caste. Daniel handed her the small plant again. She took it this time, fingers brushing his. I'm sorry this happened, she said softly. I'm not, he replied, because now they know. You're not the one who needs protection, she smiled, heart pounding for the first time. She didn't feel like a scared translator. She felt like someone who could change the stars. Asterisk, the central hall of the space station had never felt this heavy before. Bright lights lit every corner, and guards from multiple species stood in silence. At the center stood Daniel, hands calmly folded, facing the Yantari Council of Elders. Around him, alien eyes watched, judged, whispered. Some looked at him with suspicion, others with pity. Only one pair of eyes held faith. Liari's. She stood beside him, refusing to move even when warned. Step aside, child, said Elder Vixo, his voice echoing. This trial is for the human male who has placed you under unnatural influence. No, Liari said firmly. I stand with him, because if you judge him, then you judge me too, the elders muttered among themselves. This was not how trials were conducted, but Liari had already broken many rules by defending a human. Now she was about to break the oldest one, loving one. Elder Vixel turned to Daniel. Do you understand the reason for this trial? Daniel nodded. You believe I've taken advantage of Liari, that I used words, gestures, or culture to control her feelings. That is correct, Vixal confirmed. You are accused of corrupting her with human bonding codes, of replacing our ancient wisdom with confusing desires, of leading her to say, in her own words, that she wished to be devoured. What say you? Daniel's voice was calm. I say, I'm guilty, but only of kindness. A hush fell across the room. Liari's eyes widened. Daniel continued, I shared food with her when she was hungry. I listened when she had questions. I explained when she was afraid. If that's corruption, then maybe kindness is the most dangerous tool I have, the room murmured. One elder whispered, Is he mocking us? But Liari stepped forward, raising her voice. He's not mocking anyone. He's telling you the truth. You are not allowed to speak during this phase, Vixel warned. I'm already speaking, she said sharply. You let others accuse him. Why not let someone defend him? The elder sighed, then waved his hand. Very well. Speak, but make it count. Liari stepped in front of Daniel. Facing the elders with her back to him, she took a deep breath. When I first heard human transmissions, I believed what the old stories said, that human males eat their mates. I was terrified. Gasps spread among the crowd. Then I met Daniel, and I watched him, followed him, listened to him. And I saw something the elders refused to consider: compassion, not hunger. Respect, not dominance. Gentleness, not danger. She looked over her shoulder at Daniel. He never once touched me without permission. He never once raised his voice. And when I asked him directly about the word devour, he told me the truth. That humans use words of hunger to describe deep affection, not violence. Vixel stood slowly, but those words are still disturbing. He said, even if they mean no harm, they carry danger. Words can change thoughts, and thoughts lead to bonds, and bonds with humans have always led to pain. Liari looked down, then slowly raised her eyes again. Maybe that's true for some, but not for me. The bond I formed didn't break me. It made me braver. Vixal walked down from the platform, standing close to her. Then answer this. Are you in love with the human male? The hall fell completely silent. Even the machine stopped humming. Liari's heart raced. She turned fully toward Daniel now. He wasn't smiling. Not this time. He was holding his breath, just like she was. She looked into his eyes, then spoke. Softly but clearly. Yes, I love him. A shockwave of murmurs spread. One elder stood from his seat, another leaned back in disbelief. But Daniel only blinked, stunned. Liari smiled. Her voice stronger now. I didn't plan it. I didn't even understand it at first. But when someone makes you feel seen, safe, understood, you don't need more reasons. Vixal raised his hand, quieting the crowd. Very well, he said. Turning to the council, you have heard her words. The bond is real. Now the question is it dangerous? The eldest among them, lady Siran, stood slowly. She had not spoken until now. Her voice was calm, wise. Sometimes fear hides in tradition, but love hides in courage. She looked at Liari, then at Daniel. I vote no punishment. He is guilty of nothing but being human. One by one, the council voted. 3 votes for exile, 4 votes for release. It was decided Daniel would remain on the station, and Liari's bond was recognized as her choice. The trial ended, but Daniel and Liari didn't move. They just stood there staring at each other. Everything had changed, and yet nothing had. When they finally walked out together, Daniel whispered, You really love me? She blushed. I guess so. Even if your words are terrifying, he smiled. Don't worry, I'll use softer ones from now on. Liari laughed. Too late, human. You already devoured my heart. The days after the trial were calm. No guards followed Daniel anymore. No whispers chased Liari through the hallways. For the first time since arriving on the station, the two could sit together without fear, without misunderstanding, but even with peace around them. A strange new feeling settled between them. It was not fear, not confusion. It was something warmer, something closer, something unfamiliar and thrilling. Love, real, quiet love. Daniel had always been calm and open, but now he looked at Liari differently, not as someone to protect, but as someone who chose to stand beside him. Even when her entire species turned against her, Liari felt the same every time she saw his smile. She remembered the trial, the moment she had said, in front of everyone, "Yes, I love him," and how his eyes had gone wide like he couldn't believe someone had finally said those words to him. Now it was time to live those words, to explore this strange, beautiful thing between them. One evening, Daniel invited her to the top deck, an open observatory dome filled with stars. A quiet place away from noise. He'd set up a soft blanket, a small light, and of course dinner. But this time, no jokes, no strange slang, just a warm, simple meal. Soup, fresh bread, and berries. Liari sat beside him, watching the galaxy stretch across the dark sky. "Why do you always bring food when we meet?" she asked softly. Daniel chuckled. "Because for humans, food is comfort, and with you, I always want things to feel safe." She smiled gently. "I used to think that was your way of preparing me for something." "I know," he replied, "and I hated that misunderstanding. But now, it's our little story, isn't it?" She nodded, their story starting in fear, built on mistranslation, now filled with soft silence and starlight. After a few moments, Liari leaned closer. "There's still one thing I don't understand." "What's that?" he asked, offering her a berry. She took it, bit it slowly, then looked at him. "When humans say, 'devour with love,' what does that actually look like?" Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Oh," he said, "you want me to show you?" Her antennae twitched nervously, but she didn't look away. "I want to understand." "All of it." Daniel hesitated. Then he slowly reached forward, not quickly, not suddenly, just gently, and cupped her face with one hand. His thumb brushed along her cheek, and then, with a soft whisper of air between them, he kissed her. Liari's eyes fluttered shut. Her body froze, then relaxed. The kiss was warm, not like fire, but like a quiet blanket after the storm. It didn't hurt. It didn't confuse. It simply was. When he pulled back, Daniel watched her face carefully. She opened her eyes slowly. "That," she whispered, "was not terrifying." He laughed. "Well, that's the human way of devouring someone, one gentle kiss at a time." She touched her lips. "Strange," she said, "but I liked it." "I have more," he said, joking. "Different kinds if you're open to experimentation." She rolled her eyes playfully. "Typical human male. Always hungry." They both laughed. Not the nervous kind, not the awkward kind. Real laughter, the kind that fills silence with light, the kind that says, "We made it." Later that night, they lay on the blanket together, looking up at the stars. No words needed, just two souls from different species who had broken every rule, and yet somehow fit together like puzzle pieces in the dark. When Liari's hand found his, she didn't pull back, and when he squeezed gently, she felt no fear, only warmth. "You know," she whispered, "if you ever do decide to eat me, make sure it's with dessert." Daniel laughed so hard he choked on a grape. "Noted," he said, wiping his mouth. "You'll get chocolate first." She smiled at the stars. Her people had always feared the humans, but no one ever told them how sweet they could be, how soft, how respectful, how loving. And if this was what humans meant by devouring someone with love, then maybe, just maybe, she was ready to be feasted on every single day. And in Daniel's eyes, she saw something even deeper, not hunger, but wonder, as if he couldn't believe she was real, as if he'd waited his whole life to find someone who didn't run away, and instead said, "Feed me your truth, and I will give you mine." And so, under the galaxy's silent witness, a new kind of story began, not of fear or mistranslation, but of the sweetest kind of devouring, the kind only two hearts in love could understand.